Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we are in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25. And we are in the sermon, reading part of the sermon, the last sermon Jesus delivers in Matthew's Gospel, in which he will tell the last two parables that he tells in Matthew's Gospel, the parable of the 10 virgins and the parable of the talents. We're going to talk about the parable of the 10 virgins today, and that's in chapter 25, verses 1 through 13. So we're going to turn there as we come to the conclusion of our study of Jesus' parables in Matthew's Gospel. Jesus is speaking to his disciples about the end of time, which he makes clear in chapter 24, verse 36. It's in response to some questions they asked him just a few days before he died, as they were sitting on the Mount of Olives at the end of the day, looking back over the city of Jerusalem. Jesus tells them this story. Then the kingdom of heaven will be compared to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the prudent took oil in flasks along with their lamps. Now while the bridegroom was delaying, they all got drowsy and began to sleep. But at midnight there was a shout, "Behold the bridegroom! Come out to meet him!" Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the prudent, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are gone out." And the prudent said, "No, there will not be enough for us and you too. Go instead to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they were going away to make a purchase, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. Later the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open up the door for us." But he answered and said, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Be on the alert then. You do not know the day nor the hour." So this is about preparedness, and it's about the fact that we don't know when. So there are two messages that he's trying to communicate. Now, he said, "You don't know," all the way back when he started talking about the end of time in chapter 24, verse 36. So you don't know, the angels don't know, I don't know. Nobody knows but the Father alone. And so he's re-emphasizing that. Of course, he's the bridegroom, as he is. We've already talked about that. Jesus himself is the bridegroom. So we're back talking about weddings again. And so what would happen is that there would be young women, there would be bridesmaids who would stand and represent the bride and would accompany the bride. And they were virgins. They were maidens. They were young women who were not married yet, but were almost of the age in which they would be. And so they're going to, and this is the honor of a lifetime, other than being a bride yourself. Um, this is special. This is short of yourself being a bride and being the center of attention for the week or 2 weeks that would take to have your marriage festivities. Being a bridesmaid was the next best thing, and it was something that every young woman wanted to be able to be. And so what would happen is at some point the groom would come out, leave his house, go to the bride's house, fetch the bride and take her back to his house. And this is how a wedding ceremony would start, with the departure of the groom to get the bride, take her back to his house. And the marriage would happen at the groom's house. And it could and the groom paid for the wedding, and it could take a week. Um, and so anyway, of course, as it should be, not as it is, but as it should be, because as a father of daughters, I know. Um, you're getting an inestimable treasure when you find a wife. Any man who gets a woman to agree to marry him is married up, has been given a great gift from God. So there you go. That's the way it ought to be. Um, so anyway, I'll stop my diversion at this point and get back to the text. So, as happens at weddings, nothing happens on time. Things get delayed. People get delayed. They've gone out. Have they gone out with torches or have they gone out with oil lamps? I don't know. I mean, one would think they would go out with torches. And a torch, depending upon the way it's constructed, could burn for only 10, 15 minutes. Or it might burn much longer depending upon how it's put together. So if it were a torch, it would have been a stick, the end of it could have been split so it might burn longer. You could have soaked it, that in oil or in something combustible. But the way you'd light it is you take a rag wrapped in oil and you'd affix it to the top, and then it would light the torch. And so, if this is what's happening, then what has happened is their torches have burnt out. They have to relight their torches. So maybe they have a spare rag or something, but they don't have enough oil to soak the rag to really get the torch burning. And or maybe it's an oil lamp. An oil lamp would not deliver a very much light outside at midnight. So I'm thinking maybe these are torches, but we get the gist. They go off to buy oil. The 5 foolish virgins go off to buy oil. That might have been possible in a large enough town. That oil, that you could wake them up and pay, and they would do business with you. But it doesn't help because the door's closed. They've missed their chance. They weren't prepared when the moment came. And that's the thing. We don't know when the moment is coming, and so we have to be prepared when the moment comes. Jesus is telling his disciples this. When I come again to bring everyone home, you have to be ready that moment. That's when you have to be ready. If you're not ready at that moment, you're not ever going to be ready, and you're not ever going to be allowed in. It's harsh, um, but it's true, and therefore we must heed the warning and be ready. Be ready so that when the time comes, we're there and are gathered in. Okay, we're going to look at the parable of the talents. This is about preparedness. That's about judgment. And if we thought this was harsh, the next one, wow. Okay, we'll talk about that next time. Thank you for joining me. Another 5 good minutes with the Word.